So you don't know how to get started sewing, but if you feel that you're ready, I have the best project for you. We're going to make a pet bandana modeled by Mackie for one of the others in the house. So Mac said this is an easy project for everybody, from beginner sewers to more advanced, from kids to adults. And he's really, really happy to see what everybody comes up with. So don't forget to give us a like, subscribe, and comment with the pictures of your pets and their new bandana. I'm going to give him a treat, and I'll see you guys up in the sewing room in a minute. Bye. Welcome back to the sewing room. This is what we're going to sew today, this reversible pet bandana. You're going to learn how to draft your own pattern. Don't worry, I'm going to walk you through the whole thing step by step, much easier than you think. You're going to learn the straight stitch for a cotton woven fabric, because that's what we're using. This does not have a stretch. We are back to our cotton fabrics. So for this project, you are going to need 2 fat quarters of fabric of your choice, cotton woven fabric. I wouldn't use, some people have asked me if you can use the upholstery fabric that they've had left over. I think it might be too heavy for your fur baby. You want something light because it's going to go around their neck, and it's going to be hanging off their collar actually. And so I have 2 prints. If you don't know the size of a fat quarter, you are looking at an 18 by 22 inch piece of fabric. Of course, you can always cut something from a larger piece that you already have, or of the fabric that you like. We're going to be using our clips, or at least I'm going to be using our clips. You can use any pins if you want to with this. Once again, I just like my clips better. Our handy sewing machine. We need a soft tape measure. This is going to help us draft our pattern. Your fur baby's collar, scissors, rotary cutter if you have it, mat if you have it. And for this project, we're going to be using our iron. Any iron that you have. I just have a mini one in my sewing room. And no sewing project for me is complete without my drink of choice. So I have my protein coffee, again in my travel mug, because I don't want any clips or threads accidentally placed in my coffee. Never waste coffee, not a good thing. Let's get started taking our measurements. We're going to start by opening up our pet collar. Now, for this project, I'm going to measure from here all the way across, right up here to the buckle. I'm not going to include on this type of collar this piece, because it doesn't actually add to the length of the collar. It'll be drawn into this one. We're going to take our soft tape measure, put that at one end, slowly bring it across, and I just press it in. Remember, this does not have to be spot on perfect. It doesn't have to be. Your fur baby is not going to know. So this collar, because this collar cover is going to be for Sadie Lou, this is 22, I'm going to say 22 and a half. And I'm using inches. You can go metric if that's your thing. I'm here in the US, so it's not something that I'm good at. Our width of the collar is 1 inch. There's going to be a very simple formula to draft this pattern. So I'm going to first roughly draw. I am a better sewist than I am an artist, please forgive me. But roughly we are making a home plate. If you're a baseball fan, go Phillies. And so our top part of the collar is going to be 2/3 of the length of the collar. So in this case, this is roughly going to be about 14.5 inches across for me. When you're starting to play with the half, it doesn't have to be exact. round up, round down to make it easy for you. The height of the collar, so this space in here, you're going to take this number and subtract 2 inches. So this is going to be 12.5. Our piece here, not a separate piece, it's just a separate way of cutting. Because this is 1 inch, I'm going to make this 2 inches. We want some give. We want it to be able to thread through easily so that when you're getting your fur baby dressed, it goes on easily. If I would do just 1 inch, it would not go on easily. Now, you think you have your measurements ready. You don't. We have to do a little bit of sewing math. I'm sorry, I'm not good at math, but sewing math has to be done. We have to take into consideration our seam allowance. So when you're drafting any type of pattern that you're doing, you need to take into consideration the area that is going to be sewn. Otherwise, if I don't add that in, I'm going to end up with a finished product that's going to be 14 inches because I'm choosing to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And so a 1/4 inch here and a 1/4 inch here, and that's going to take away my 1/2 inch. And down here, it's going to take away 1/4 inch. So that would end up being 12.25. It's not going to make any difference here. So we're going to add that in. And remember, you are adding it in to both sides. Actually, no, we are going to add in 1/2 inch here. So we're going to make this, we're going to cut out the piece 15 inches by 13 inches. And I'm going to add in a little bit of extra play for this area in here. So we're going to add in a 1/2 inch here. Let's go to get our cutting mats out. Let's get our rotary cutters, our rulers, and we're going to actually cut out our piece now. I'll be right back. I have my cutting mat is ready. So we're going to take our first piece. Don't worry, I'm walking you through this. It's okay. Now, I moved my soft tape measure away. I don't need to use that anymore because I'm using my quilter's ruler. If you don't have one, you can still use your tape measure. I'm choosing not to mark it. You don't have to mark it if you don't want to. You can mark it if you want to. You can use, they have these handy dandy pens that once you write, within half an hour, 45 minutes, that will completely dissolve. You can see it's beginning to dissolve already, and then it won't show through the fabric. You can use chalk. You can use Taylor's chalk, Taylor's soap, that can be used to mark the fabric. In a pinch, I have actually used a colored pencil, but I'm going to choose not to go with anything today. So first piece first. You see there's a little bit of the salvage edge up here. So I don't really want to use that part. So I'm just going to trim that because it's further than my seam allowance, so it's not going to be pretty. So I'm just going to line it up. Once again, if you are doing this project with kids, please do not let them use the rotary cutter alone. And if you're sewing in an area where your rotary cutter could possibly get into little hands, please put it somewhere where it can't. These are very, very sharp. They will cut very quickly, and then it ends up really messy, and nobody wants to bleed on fabric. I'm going to line this up. And then I'm going to take my pattern weights, something heavy just to mark it. Now, I'm not going to iron just yet, but I am going to go over with a pattern weight just to make this edge a little bit crisper, have it sit down a little bit easier while we sew, or while we cut. And now we decided this top piece needs to be 15 inches. So since we folded the fabric, we are going to cut that in half. So it's going to be a cut of 7.5 inches. So 7's here. I'm going to line up, bring it out 1/2 inch, line everything up. And actually my rotary cutter needs to be sharpened. So I get these little pieces. Do not pull it. You will pull threads. These pieces are going into my bin. They're not going on the floor. Now we need to make this piece down here. So we decided we want 2.5. So we're going to measure down 2.5 right here. Move my pattern weight over, and we're going to take it right down. Actually, we need to bring it down to 13 inches. I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm so excited that we're cutting fabric. So the rule of thumb is that you measure twice and you cut once. So we're going to count down 13. So that's going to take us right here. And yes, I am going to be the one who actually points out. Make sure everything is lined up. Okay. That goes into the scrap bin. Now we're going to come down 2.5. So that's going to be right here, right to the corner. This piece I'm not going to throw out because I can probably do something with it. I'm not much of a quilter, but sometimes I like to play. So I can do that later. But now we have our top piece. Let's do the same thing with the bottom one. So on this one, I'm going to bring it across. Now if you see here, that little pull in the fabric, that was a thread that was pulled when they were manufacturing it. So I'm going to fold it. My light came down on my machine. I'll fix that later. One pattern weight on. I love these things. And these are they are sauerkraut presses when you make sauerkraut. I've never made sauerkraut. It's not my thing. But I thought these would make perfect weights because I can see through. And I really do like them. They're heavy, but I also think they're pretty. But you can use whatever you want. You can use pretty stones. Okay, again, we're going to line up 7.5. So I always lock my, see, if I pull it back, the blade's exposed. If I push it in, then it's not. Before I put it down, I always lock it. And again, we're going to count down 13. And then we're going to come down 2.5. Measure twice, cut once. And that's it. We have our pieces ready to go. So now we're going to line up our pieces, and we're going to sandwich them together, right sides together. Easy to tell which is the right side with the woven fabric when you have a pattern because of where it's printed. On the other one, they're both the same. So there's really no right or wrong to it. We're going to match the edges up, and then we're going to clip it in place. We're ready for our first seam. I'll see you at the machine. Okay, here we are back at the machine. And now I'm going to select one of my straight stitches, and here I'm going to do the one that has the needle in the center. So if I push my number 1, and this is on my brother machine, if I push the number 1, my needle's going to be all the way to the left. I want my needle in the center. It just helps me make my my 1/4 inch seam allowance easier. So I'm going to push that, and I'm going to increase my stitch length slightly because I don't want to buckle my fabric at all. I'm not going to increase it as much as I would with my top stitching though. Okay. I'm going to pull my threads to the back. Place my presser foot down, and away we sew. 1 or 2 stitches backwards just to lock the stitch. Now I'm looking at where my edge lines up here, so that I know where roughly my 1/4 inch seam allowance is. I can take my purple thing and literally that is the name of this. I can take my purple thing and I can measure, and that gives me roughly the 1/4 inch. This square end is actually a 1/4 inch. So it reminds me if I want to check if I feel in doubt. I'll go a little bit faster with my straight stitch versus my zigzag stitches. It all depends on the mood and how relaxed I feel when I'm using mine. A little bit, but that's okay. We don't have to lock the stitch, because we are going to fold that edge back. Come in here and clip the threads. And now let's take this to our ironing board. So we're going to open it up. Now you have 2 choices. You can fold over the seam to one edge, or you can open it. However you'd like. So I'm going to open it on this one so that when I fold over, it won't be too bulky when I'm sewing. Now before I press it, I'm just going to go over with my pattern holder, my pattern weight, just to make it easier so that I don't have to put my fingers in it so much as I press that seam. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. Oops. All better. I'm going to slide this over. Now we're going to fold this piece over so that we can finish this edge. So this is where the collar is going to be folded through. My clip's ready. I'm going to measure so that it comes over about 1/4 of an inch. So again, here, 1/4 of an inch. Line it up. This is why I like using, actually, I'm going to slide this down a little bit. That's why I like using the quilter's ruler. It really does help. Take my pattern weight just to put this in place. And then you can even take it over, slide our just to add a little bit of heat to keep it down. I'm going to clip this as well. Now you can finish it with this. This is the 1/4 inch seam allowance that we allowed for in the pattern. But if you wanted to fold it over one more time, you can. And what that does is create, now please correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that's a French seam where it's double folded. And that'll take that edge here. See how it's fraying a little bit right in here? You just fold that edge over. And I like using my ruler. It just makes it easier. We're going to fold it up. And then a quick press just to help it stay. But then of course we are going to clip it because I love my clips. And let's do it again. I'll show you again on this side. Take your sewing ruler or whatever you'd like. You can even eyeball it. It doesn't have to be exact. And I'm just doing this with my pattern weight just because I don't want to burn my fingers. I know I've mentioned this before, I'm a doctor of physical therapy, so I do a lot of tactile sensation work with my patients, and if I have little burns on my fingers, it makes it a little bit harder to tell some things, especially if somebody has like a weak pulse, or if I'm trying to feel a knot or an issue. Oop, I folded that over pretty good. And this part, when you're using the iron, same thing when you're using the rotary cutter. If you're doing this with kids, you want to really supervise them. You want to help them with it. I don't want anybody to get a burn. come in and clip this. It lines up so well. The sewing gods are in our favor today. Let's go back to our machine and put our stitches in. Here we are. We're going to drop our presser foot down. And away we sew. I always slow down when I go over the seam, just to be gentle with the needle. Clip your threads. Same thing to the other side. Now, if you find that your thread in your needle slides out when you start sewing, make a little bit longer tail and hold it for the first couple of stitches, first 1 or 2 stitches nice and slow, and then it won't pull out. It's only because you didn't pull out enough thread in the back. Clip our threads. And now we're ready to pin the rest of it together. So now we're going to take our bandana and we're going to sandwich it again, the wrong side or the right sides together so that the outside is facing in, and we're going to clip. If it doesn't line up exactly, it's okay. Now you have 2 choices here. You can leave a space in here on one of the sides of the triangle to turn it out, and then I'll show you how to do it that way so that you can fold the edges in, and then when you top stitch, it'll close it, or you can turn it out at the top. Either way, whichever is easiest for you, whichever you want to do. Let's go back to the machine. Here we are, we're still at our straight stitch. Actually, I never turned it off, so same length that I've used is what I've kept. Now I'm going to back stitch just to lock it. And now continue along. Feel free to tag me on Instagram or on Facebook at Dr. Care Cares with your finished products. I would love to see your fur babies all dressed up. Now I'm going to stop here and I'm going to back stitch. And clip. And then I'm going to bring it up about 2 inches. Back stitch again. And continue on to the end. And that's where we're going to flip this out, and I'll show you how to finish that. And we'll finish it by machine, not by hand, although you can finish it with an invisible stitch if you like. The reds. It's been an interesting day today. It was actually the day of the solar eclipse here. So got to see a little bit of it. It was actually pretty cloudy in the city. So it just got dark, like it felt like a storm was coming in. That's all it really felt like. And then what you can do is take a dowel, take your finger, just to push that edge. Not bad. So we're going to take this area where we held it up, or we folded it out. We're going to fold those in so it's even. And then we're going to go ahead and clip this. And that'll just keep that where it needs to be. A little stitch here where I clipped. That's okay. So when we top stitch, that's going to get closed. Now let's go back to our iron and iron this out, and then we'll finish the last stitches. That's nicely ironed. Now I'm just going to go and quick clip around because I don't want anything to shift while I do the top stitching. Oop, get some threads. And you don't have to top stitch if you don't want to. Although it just holds everything down. And then we'll save this stitch across for last. Back of the machine, I increased my stitch length a little bit. So I had it at 3, and now I increased it to, let's increase it to 4.5. And now I'm going an 1/8 of an inch for my seam allowance here. Sometimes you just want to take a look and see. for our clips. This is the area that we are closing up. If you wanted to, you can go ahead and change your top thread, so your needle thread, to do a contrasting or even a metallic thread, just to make it a little bit more decorative. That would be really cute on a Christmas bandana for your fur babies. Purple. On lilies, I did a yellow on the top stitch. Come back here and clip our threads as well. Let's go into the top just to finish that out a little bit. I'm going to go over the seam there because that's a little bulky. Top stitching, it helps it just sit nice and not bunch up for your baby. Now the last stitch we need to do is straight across here to create the tube where the collar will go. You don't have to do it, but it just helps it sit a little bit nicer on your pet's collar. So you can mark it if you want to. I prefer not to. I'm going to pull my threads to the back. I'm going to line it up where it wants to be, where I want it to be. And then you can see how much it is over the edge here. Sometimes we have to think outside the box. So I have my nice little group of Post-its. I'm going to take one group off. So here's this edge. Here's the edge that they attach. I'm going to, since this is where I want it to be, I'm going to put this right here. So my fabric is not going to shift further when I go and sew. I have my lines. Since I can't see my marks here, I can't go by that now. I've used moleskin in the past to mark that area. I've seen, you can buy little nifty gadgets that stick on. Actually, some people use Legos and poster putty. I've seen that before. But I just like the Post-it. It just seems to work. For this project, it seems to work for me. Here's our finished bandana. So then you go ahead and thread this in. And see, you're not having a fight with it. You don't have to worry about doing anything to those stitches. I'm going to close it. And there you have it. If you found this helpful, please go ahead and give me a like, send me a comment, tag me on Instagram and on Facebook, and please don't forget to subscribe so that we can sew again together next time. Have a great day. Bye.